I know that you actually started out being a singer. And I think that is so fascinating because I find that interestingly, there is quite a lot of parallel between, music and painting,
Hmm.
even implicitly or even in terms of the genres of expression within music and within painting. How there's like the
Hmm.
romantic period of music, and then there's also the romantic period of painting. But actually that also makes me wonder, when did you begin to follow the path of the artist?
I think even from a very young age, I was creative that way. I always sang, I always drew, I always painted, I always found solace in being outdoors and looking at light and shape and shadow. And I mean, I think it fascinated me a little more than most young people. I think from an very early age, and I wrote at a young age. I wrote poetry in when I was a teenager, and then that poetry became lyrics, if you want to call it a lyric, and played guitar when I was a teenager into college and did coffee houses and then took that musical interest and joined a couple of bands and did some traveling as a singer songwriter. And really, music was my first love. I never imagined that I would do anything but music. Meanwhile, I was still drawing and painting, and in college studied painting and metalsmithing, and sort of I was doing all of those things, singing in coffee houses, uh, and then just decided that I was going to really try to focus on painting. It's difficult as a musician because you're depending on other musicians if you're in a band. So painting is a wonderfully solitary thing, and you have to depend on yourself and set yourself a schedule and really work on it every day, to get better. So mostly self-taught with watercolor. Took a couple of early classes, but really just learned how to do it mostly on my own.
Amazing. Amazing. And I really love that you've had such a breadth of experience in creative stuff, because I think in a previous conversation we had, you also mentioned that you've worn many different hats, right? But you've always felt like you've always been an artist underneath it all, right? Because
Hmm.
the that internal desire to create is so natural, and I feel like you've been able to find all of these different ways of expressing that, right, from being an actual painter to being a singer to being a business owner to all of these amazing careers and different hats that you've worn in your life. I think it's really amazing. And then also, I actually wonder if you find that there is a bit of similarity in terms of, composing music and composing paintings. Do you find that there's a bit of a crossover there?
They are so intertwined for me because I will often, when I'm deep into a painting and really concentrating, I often have lyrics come to me. I have language, I have poetry come, and
Mm.
I'll often write in on the sides of the paintings because sometimes I don't want to, and I'm not even looking for the language or the lyric or the poetry. It just, if I open that door a little bit, it just sort of comes. So um, it's, it is all intertwined, and it's very similar. And then I'm compelled to create, as I think most artists are, that you don't really have a choice but to express yourself that way. For me, it's very difficult to write, like writing a paper for college or writing even my own bio. For me is very difficult. But if you ask me to write a poem, I would have no problem doing that. I could express it that way, almost as a, because I'm creating a visual picture with words. So yes, for me, they're very intertwined.
Yeah, that makes it seem almost like you're always, maybe not always inspired, because I feel like inspiration can sometimes feel a bit heavy if you think about it that way, but it
Yeah.
seems almost like you're always open to, or being a vessel for inspiration, which
Yes.
I think is
Right.
also
Yeah.
really important. Yeah. And
I think we're all vessels for it. I think we're born with that innate curiosity and that ability translate our world that way. I think that it just is not encouraged enough when we're young, or we have experiences that where we're told that we're not good enough to try that, or um, so I feel very fortunate that I was able to pursue that and continue to pursue it, and then also be able to maybe open the door for my students and people that paint with me to sort of open the door enough so that they feel comfortable to create, because everybody's so afraid of making a mistake and afraid that they don't have something to say. But given the right circumstance, I think anybody can be creative, anybody can really paint, anybody can write. It's just giving yourself the time and the place and the solitude, and that's what it takes sometimes, really, is that lack of everything else around you. You really have to learn to sit with yourself and open up to what comes, and then also get out and experience things that make you feel something.